Hello, everyone. I'm Shilok Mukatti. I am an artist, I'm an activist. I write and I dance. I don't know what else I do, but yeah, I just live my life. So, yeah, I'm here. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Jaydeep. I'm a filmmaker and I recently made Rainbow Rishta, but I've been also a writer in the movies. I've written films like Khoya Khoya Chand, Shaurya, and this is my first exploration in something which is absolutely queer-centric and queer-focused, and yeah, and that's what has brought me here.
Thanks. Um, I wanted to take a quick moment to just sort of ask a question maybe to the audience. Um, are people familiar with what the word panchayati means? Just a quick show of hands, maybe. If you do, oh yay! Oh, this is much nicer than what was happening in my Instagram DMs when the poster dropped from Sandbox. Because one very concerned person said, "Why are we giving platform to khap panchayats?" So clearly, there's a very broad understanding of what panchayati is. Panchayati basically means sort of when a group of people sit together and pick apart something that they are interested in, that concerns them, that they are nosy about. And I think that's like, I mean, all of those interpretations are very valid and very applicable to what we'll be doing here. Nimi and I were sort of going back and forth on what this panel could be called. And the brief was very vague, I feel, quite purposefully, where we were like, okay, relationships, queer, not queer, figure it out. So it was a very like fridge magnet poetry kind of brief that we were trying to like make sense out of, which are the best kind of briefs I feel sometimes. Um, and and we kept going through sort of options for what it could be called. Panchayati was a word that I am very fond of, so we were like, okay, it has to either begin or end in Panchayati, and then we were trying to figure out what the rest could be. I was really trying to find a Kannada word for something related to marriage, but it was just very hard. So, like, you know, in Hindi, when you say muh dikhai, it's a little bit more gender neutral. The Kannada word, as far as from what I've been able to understand, is basically going to see her, because the agency is so warped in that situation where obviously, like, you would be going to see a girl, right? Like a prospective bride. But Preeti felt like um, it was inclusive enough. It was a conversation starter, so we were like, okay, cool, Preeti Panchayati, and it worked out for us, right? So that's what it's going to be, and I think conversations around Preeti um, maybe can start with sort of stumbling our way towards finding Preeti, which basically, I mean, in my head, that basically means um, what has your journey been like in finding love and relationships, any kind of relationship that it might be, and sort of take it from there. Thanks.
Okay. I'm a very unique generation which grew up in the analog world and now lives in a digital world. So I think some of us who grew up in that cusp kind of know what cruising was like, and I grew up in Delhi and, grew up in the shadows, really. And now I think we live in a world, which is digitally connected, but so for me growing up, even with the shame and the shadows of cruising, in a sense, I knew I felt guilty, and that guilt and that shame I still carry with me somewhere. But when I look back, there was a sense of community, which is what we were talking about earlier. When you go back to the same place and there's a network, you meet people who are nameless, but you meet them over and over again, and they have similar things at stake as you. Slowly you get to know the cop, and so there is a kind of network universe of trust that happens, which now I think doesn't really happen with online dating, I think, so much. And that's across the board. I don't think it's just queer uh, people, but it's also, cishet. It's just become very transactional, and we were talking earlier. Every time I hooked up with someone, I personally felt like a little lesser than what I was before, after a point, because I knew that for me, it was not just the act of sex that was. I remember one Diwali, my parents were traveling and I was alone in Bombay, and I hooked up, and then that person left, and I was alone, and I've never felt more lonely. And that's where I realized that, yeah, I mean, but I didn't know how I would find, and I was in a very complicated relationship when I was 32, and I was not I had started something I was not even doing professionally very well at that time. And I went to stay with my friend Lakshmi, who's here in London. And I just don't know why, like some kind of self flagellation. I said, I'll finish all the money I have in the bank. I will return to Bombay and start from scratch. And I mean, I stayed with her for a month and I finished whatever money I had. And I returned to Bombay and I got onto Grinder. Those were the early days of Grinder, 2013. And that's where everyone was still more interested in, oh, you like poetry? Oh, okay. Those conversations were still happening. And that's where I met Rajat, my partner. And I did, I mean, as much as I'm dissing social media and sort of not social media but like online dating, that is where I met my partner. And yeah, that's been, in short, I think, from shame to actually finding Preeti. Yeah.
Shilok?
Yes. Um, Preeti. Well, I have a lot of my close friends and my sister who has seen all the phase of my love life. But to begin with, being born in a hetero normative structure, um, Preeti, the love, the first thought that has come personally in my life was it's a crime, or I am doing something wrong. Um, when you're assigned to be a male person and you are expected to be in a relationship with an opposite sex, but you're going through with your own gender dysphoria, you're super confused, but still you crave for that love. And you see those small love letters that has been passing through in the high school. I wish I could have that. Or when the boys who's constantly trying to catch hold with this top girls in the class, you feel, I wish I could be there as well. And the love you always was very much fearful about, and also you feel that it is going to be a dream. And I've always walked in this journey. I remember when I started transitioning, there were a lot of rejection for the color of my skin, or oh my god, you're too feminine, and so and so and so. But later I realized I will not give that power to anyone to reject me. And the real journey began. And I realized over the time that the preeti, the love, if I want love, it should begin with myself first. I really need to love myself. If I don't know how to love myself, I don't know how to teach another person how to love me, right? So, and that's how the journey began. Yes, I have been through many relationships, which has been toxic, which has been emotionally abusive, which has been so scary. And last year, I was like, I don't want to get married. I want to live my wild life. One of my sisters, she was getting married, and I was like in her wedding, and I was like, and everyone are like, asking me, when is your time? I was like, oh my God, no, no marriage and stuff and things. But life is surprising, and I got married in May, and it was so magical because the first person I told that I'm in love was my grandmother. And I have never expected that I would be so comfortable to talk to her, because the first thing I have to speak to her about, about my sex change operation, or what really happened and what is it and stuff. And and she was so empathetic, and she was also concerned whether you can trust this person. Then she said that if you're going to be happy and that is all you need, and my grandmother is the most patriarchal person I've ever met in my life, and if she can be so empathetic, I feel anyone can. And the day before the wedding, all my aunts and my sisters, and especially my grandmothers, the whole village, they are not from the urban city or went to college, or they're exposed to the world that we are here in Bangalore. They live in coffee estates. They have their own, the life with plantation and farming. For them, like, it is okay, it's absolutely fine, you be happy. And to come and, like, almost hundreds of women came and did haldi for me, and it was so powerful. And yes, there is a partner I have found who is ready to face the world with me, but also there is this whole energy that I always thought this is my war, but the war kind of transformed into love, and they abided me and supported me to celebrate the love I found. So here I am. But I also not say that love is romantic. I mean, of course, we live in a uh, world full of cinemas of all these love songs. Love is ugly, love is painful, love is so much fight, but at the end of the day, you cuddle and sleep with peace, and you make your journey for that. And it is beautiful of mix of so many things. So yeah.
Oh, thanks. Oh, that's really lovely. Thank you. So, Jaydeep, when Shilok was talking about sort of confiding in her grandmother, has there been a figure or figures in your life who've been similar?
Grew up on very mainstream Hindi cinema. I grew up on Maine Pyar Kiya, Hum Aapke Hain Kaun, and in my 20s, all my cishet friends were getting married, and I was standing on the fringes, and I was like, I'm never really going to have this. You come to terms with it, and you're like, it's okay, and then you prepare yourself for it. But going back to an empty house is just really, really hard, day after day after day. And when I met Rajat, actually, Rajat's mom is the hero that I never knew I needed. She has walked into rooms in Jamshedpur, which is where she lives, with immense confidence and celebrating our love. And the other person who's in the room is obviously going to feel, uh, slightly diminished if they hold on to their hatred. And I've seen prejudice melt in the room. I've seen, which is where I also got the thought for Rainbow Rishta, that I saw this lovely piece in an exhibition once. Everything else has failed. Don't you think it's time to give love a chance? And I've seen actually love win smaller battles in little rooms, disarm people. Love is such a disruptive force, and I've seen it with so when I go back to Jamshedpur, all my Barjatia dreams are on acid. Really, I'm like fully doing the whole mami ji mein parathe banao, and there is not a question, there's never a question about us being a same-sex couple. And I face a lot of those eyebrows in Bandra, in South Delhi. That has also been a revelation to me about what you were saying, and I was connecting with it, the coffee estates and all. I kind of feel, and I could be wrong, that we are actually a very progressive, and I've seen this across. Like, I've shot in Imphal, I've shot in Guwahati, I've shot in Nagaon, which is a small town near Guwahati. It, I mean, more or less, people are kind of accepting and ready to celebrate if they see something that is raw, genuine, and real. Whereas that the labels and the questions are more in urban centers, is what I feel. So, yeah, I've seen, and Rajat's family has always come together. We did a Havan last year, And his mom started with saying that, I want to do a small havan for you. And before we knew it, my sister was shopping for Rajat, and my cousins came down, my friends came down. We made a lot of money. Like, we got little lifafas. I think we redid our kitchen. Like, it was the most profitable day, the most profitable performance that we did. And it was very overwhelming. And what was overwhelming was actually not just this, to see people come and be there for you and your love and believe in it. 85-year-old mommy, tearing up. And I didn't think that was possible. And yeah, the allies in my life have been braver than I have.
It's really lovely to know, and it sort of reminds me of. So I haven't really come out to any of my family members directly, except for my mom, my father, and my brother. After my father's passing, my mother would confide in people that she was closest to in my extended family, and she would go to them. And basically, the blueprint for the conversation was, um, you are close to me, and I need to tell you something that is very important for me. Like, that would be the disclaimer, and then the conversation would begin. So, I mean, people whom I never thought I would even consider to have a conversation with about my sexuality. My mother was sort of like I would get a phone call like a week later saying, "Ha, by the way, bata diya." Like, so it was very much that. And before I knew it, like, every time, like, there were like a couple of years when every time I would go for a family function, it's like whole new set of people had like figured out a way to have a conversation around it. And the language doesn't always exist necessarily. So I come from Aurangabad, which is a smaller city in Maharashtra, um, and people, and so like my family lives in Latur and like outside Raipur and Nagpur, and mostly the experience has been really quite interesting because people figure out a way to say, haha, like, cool, don't worry, right? Like, or like, and this is more to my mother, but like I begin to fit into the picture at some point to say. So my mother went from having a gay son to me, like them having a gay relative, and I think like that journey, like, it takes time. I think distance also helps. Like, let's be real. It's nice when you're not living in a joint family kind of a thing, where like people have time to process, and it's not an everyday thing. I think privilege that has to be considered also.
Acknowledge our privilege. I think it is not the norm. I mean, seeing, but I think putting these stories and telling our stories is important also, because this is also a possibility. Because what you see constantly, especially in media and films and all, is sort of the violence that comes with it, which I think is not the complete picture, really, because this is also a reality. And I think it creates a happier image, and you can manifest it. I don't know.
Shilok, if I may be a little nosy and probe a little bit further, I'm very curious actually about um, what the wedding conversation was like in your family, going from not at all to, all right, fine, this May it is, let's do it.
Okay, let's get into this. Okay, as I told, the first my experiment was my grandmother. Okay, I really went to her village, and she lives alone by herself. She's in her 80s, and she was my experiment totally. And then on the same night, I supposed to talk to my parents, and I haven't spoken about my surgery at all with my parents. Which it's been 5 years, but still, like, they kind of knew, but then we never had an open conversation about it. And it's just like so weird. Even in the family, everyone knows something, but, like, there is not a straight conversation about it. And then finally, I've been telling my parents that I wanted to talk to them. I want to talk to them. So and before this, I have introduced my partner. They had a suspicion, because the way we acted in front of them. Yeah, so cheesy. um, and we made it so evident. And then, like, I tried to. I was in Bangalore, and I made a video call, and I wanted to speak something, because already I had a conversation with my partner's mother, and his parents didn't know anything about me because I can easily walk as a cis woman. That was our next, exam in this journey. So when I tried doing a video call, and my mom she sent something. She's like, "No, we will talk at home. You come home, we will speak." And I haven't even told what I'm going to speak to her. And then finally, after I had a conversation with my grandmother, I got an idea how to speak about this. And I prepared myself so much, and I went. My dad very easily avoided the conversation. He went to have bath, and he went and sat in front of the puja room, and he started doing his puja. And I was like, okay, I get it. And then my mom is very trying to be very busy watching a serial, and I'm like, I'm trying to speak, and then like, I want to speak to you. And then she turns. I just went on like point by point, and I was like, "Look, I had a surgery 5 years back, and you met Ullas, and we both are financially stable, and I want to get married." It was just point. I didn't even explain. And the first thing she was like, "Okay," have the first response was, um, "Yeah, we kind of knew. Have you spoken to his parents?" I was like, yeah, if his parents doesn't have any problem, we don't have any problem. I was like, okay. And I am talking about my surgery for the first time. Your first concern is about this, but not this. I was also like very confused about it. And my mom is like, then she comes about surgery. And I was like, then the whole drama says, you didn't tell me. It was like, how can the doctor do it without I was 18 plus, so I can do. I had to and she's also nurse, so it is a very difficult conversation about surgery and stuff and things. And okay, and finally my dad comes, and I also wanted. Already there has been so many conversation about it, how to convince, what happens. And my partner is speaking to my parents, no, I will leave my whole family and come. I want her. Very dramatic, more dramatic than me. And finally my dad, that was yeah, I knew, he said. And I really didn't expected this conversation with my father. Well, let me speak to him. And he spoke to him with Ullas, my partner. And then he's like, okay, I want you to make a video that you will look after my daughter very well. Make sure that you create a video that you do not hurt her or anything. So I want it in a video. I was like, I really appreciate your concern, but this is little too much. Like, everyone is so dramatic except me, okay? Because I am the drama queen always. So this is little weird. Okay, fine. The whole conversation happened, and I and my partner already told his mother that we are having this conversation with my parents. In her head, it is completely different marriage proposal. So then asked me, "Did you speak to your parents?" Then yes. Then like, why are you? And like, I wanted to speak to her personally and explain all of this. And this happened in December, and I think Jan end they were coming to Bangalore. And it was we I had no clue. I've been giving talks about gender sexuality in colleges, schools, corporate offices, so many places, but this was the most difficult conversation ever. How am I going to explain? And finally the day came, and I had no clue how to convince them. And my partner is like, "Do we really have to tell them?" I'm like, "Don't you understand? My parents' first rule is they should know about it." I was like, "Okay, fine." And finally, the day had come, and I met his parents. And his mom is like, "You have a beautiful eyes. I love your nose." I was like, "Okay, okay, that's good. That's good." Well, and then immediately she's like, "You wanted to see something, what is it?" And she also has been thinking a lot of things in her head. And I'm like, "Let's have a lunch, and let's have a drink, and then we will speak." I tried to push it, and finally it's all over. And Same pattern what my dad did, and the same pattern with my father-in-law. Nicely, he went inside the bedroom and he slept off. Okay, so men always avoid the difficult conversation and leave that to women to handle everything. And my future mother-in-law was my present mother-in-law. She's like, okay, now. And then before this previous night, I had a huge drama argument with my partners. Like, no, I don't want to talk about it. You have to talk about it because it is your parents. This whole drama is happening. And somehow I'm like, you take care, but I will be there. And he want to make them understand, but we don't know how to, we don't know the language. Even though we can't explain it in English, even in Kannada, how to explain properly everything. And he said that, like, he began with, she had a surgery, and like, and somehow he vomited out. And then there was a bit silence, and my mother-in-law is like, you don't have womb, you don't get periods. I was like, no. And then there's like whole drama. She started crying, and I'm like, and he's being aggressive. There's a huge fight. I'm like, okay, okay. And I started crying. I don't know how to convince, and this is so much drama. I was not ready for this. Oh my god, I don't know how I'm gonna deal this. But all I could see is my partner holding his tears, still trying to be aggressive so that she doesn't convert more drama, or like, distract in a conversation. And it was so difficult. I could see him, he's controlling his tears and still having a very serious conversation. And then we finally told them, even if we want to have our own child, we can have surrogacy. There is other options. We like each other, and we want to work this up. um, and then she cried for 10-15 minutes, and then she said, you guys have come so far, and let's talk about the wedding. I was like, okay. And then my father-in-law gets up and comes. Exact timings, okay? And then, like, there is no drama. Everyone's like, where is ice cream? Do we want coffee? I'm saying, wait, what just happened? There's like so much serious thing happened. I still need to process it. Okay, fine. But like, but my father-in-law doesn't know anything. So there is like other more drama. Finally, I left the place. And then there was this whole conversation happened. And then on that evening, they spoke to my parents. Um, and my in-laws told me two things. One is like, we're not that evil, cruel people to separate someone who loves each other so much. So we will not do that. So they only had one concern, that like the relatives shouldn't know anything about it until the wedding. So, and I was like, so furious about it. And but then I said okay there. But I had a fight with my partner. I'm so outgoing. There's so much article about me. I'm like, I don't know, why should I hide about it? And like full on argumentative, and so many things I was doing. And this is, I don't know how I'm going to do it. But later, I didn't realize there was a threat. Someone in a far relative of him took one of my pictures, then sent it to my mother-in-law. Uh, and it was just a wake-up call for me. Okay, I was just neglecting this. And also, then until then, I also didn't see there were so many articles. And I was talking to Tejas earlier. There were so many articles. Some people randomly have took my pictures and written according to their own way. And that was so scary. And I was around that point of time, I was very private with my social media. I was in that journey, but that was really scary, and I had to remove everything. And I think we both have worked so much before the wedding. Like, because I also don't want it to be out there. It was not influenced. It was also, I want to protect myself and my relationship. I'm okay to talk to people here who's right in front of me. But something out there on the internet, it is very scary. Regardless, whoever I am, uh, it's just so personal for me. I'm just scared of the internet. But even today, with our relationship, of course, there's a wedding, so many things happened. All our friends were there. But I try to be as private as I can. So, yeah. But the one thing with my parents, they had a journey with the pronouns. I think only after I had a conversation about my wedding, and that is where the real change started. Though there was acceptance, but I also made peace very long back. I'm not going to have this fight constantly because I lost my brother. So for them, it is also journey, a very traumatic journey for them. So I made peace with it, and I think right now they did an amazing job and really wonderful job, and I am proud of my parents. Yeah.
It no, this is lovely. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, it really reminds me of, not for obvious parallels, but it does remind me a lot of the person who like took a part of my heart away, who is Daniela from Rainbow Rishta. Right.
Yeah.
But before
Daniela and
that,
Shilok are very good friends.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Oh, lovely. But before we sort of jump into the Daniela thing, I really want to know: did your partner make the video?
No, no, he didn't. I mean, like, I was like, it is too much. But yeah, I also felt like, he should write down things. Like, but then I'm like, is it too much? But somewhere I still feel like I can still do it. But I'm just waiting for the right opportunity. But I really want that. I think this is one thing. Right now, I am in a very much in a heteronormative relationship. I have never imagined in my life. It is so much, like everyone asking, how what are you up to these days? I'm like, I was away from Bangalore for 2 months. I was with my in-laws, with my parents, attending weddings, festivals, and like temples, so many things. And yeah, I mean, it is too much. So let me process and figure out this life, and then I know what exactly the points that I need to write down and make him sign. So, yeah, I haven't registered my marriage yet. So I'm like, and I'm just giving him reason, like, okay, I need to figure out certain things, but I need to also see how it works for a year and then make it legal. So,
Lovely.
Does he know that he's on probation? He's
let's
sounding like
just,
a really lovely person. I think a lot of us are like.
let's just not talk about that. This is not going out from this door, okay?
I think the clue should be that he's not in the audience.
Yes, yes.
So Shilok has very strong feelings
Yeah,
about that.
no, I prefer him not be around when I talk. So, yeah, I've been successful doing that.
Excellent. Thank you. So, Jaydeep, over to you. How did you find Daniela? How did that journey happen? I am obsessed with her. I want to be a best friend. I want her to like me.
Yeah,
It's
same.
all about Daniela.
Yeah. No. Daniela is a force, and it's incredible. Daniela, Naveen Narona, who is a very prolific stand-up comic, cultural icon, was also the casting director of the show. And Daniela and Naveen grew up in Khar together, and they went to I think Sacred Hearts Boys School in Khar before Daniela transitioned, so Naveen and Daniela knew each other, and they know each other from church and everything, and we met Daniela, and my casting process was primarily, if somebody doesn't hold your attention for the first 5 minutes, making a show on them is going to be very difficult, however compelling the story is, because it's so character driven, the medium that we were going to do. Daniela's interview I started seeing, and we just completely, like, I don't know how the time flew, and then Daniela said, she's got Salim Javed sitting inside her head and writing scripts. Like she said, "Aaj tak hijre shadi pe aaye hain, ताली बजाने, आज एक हिजरे की शादी होगी और तुम आओगे ताली बजाने." I was like, this is blockbuster stuff, and like she's just like one liner after one liner. And I was like, yeah, we have to do this. And so we went along, and then we met Joel, who is. It took us a while to understand their love, and I'll be very honest about that, because Joel is very different from Daniela. Joel is the perfect foil to Daniela, and Daniela. And so what we used to do is. And I think now we've told the characters also. We used to give animal kind of characteristics to every person. So for us, Lush Monsoon was a peacock. So the way we frame against those DDA flats, one peacock going. Daniela's love was that of a dragon, and so everything is fierce. She defines the language of love, like the fight scene that you see. It's so vulnerable, and it's so, it's filled with anger, aggression, frustration, so much that it was a revelation as we went along. And the way she brings Bhayandar together, for me, Daniela's story is actually not just Daniela's story, it's also the story of Bhayandar coming together. It's also the story of Daniela and Joel's very unique, very real love. Through the making of the show, we fell in love with their love. It took us a while to understand that relationship, and it was and she continues to be a very dear friend. She comes over, we hang out together, and she's very, very, very special, and she's an inspiration for me. Like whenever I'm feeling low, I'll call her, or I'll just, yeah.
Also, for those who haven't, if you have watched, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't watched, please do consider. Sorry, this is not like a paid advert.
Yeah, yeah, do
I'm really
whatever you
sorry about
want
that.
to. Don't listen to Tejas, but watch the show.
But please watch the show because Daniela, again, like it would. I think it's very hard to not fall in love with her, and I'm just completely floored by her,
And can you
by her
imagine?
humanity and love.
Yeah, and can you imagine we've not had an intersex story in mainstream media till now? I mean, how invisible have we been? And through Daniela, I learn every day. Like Daniela was telling me the other day about horizontal reservations. And did we speak about this? About how every company which has horizontal reservation for LGBTQIA people, it's a lot of cis gay men and cis gay women who are coming in, and obviously, but whereas in the trans community and the intersex community, they haven't had those equal opportunities, so they can never really compete at that level. So Daniela is like an institution that I go to. I take copious amounts of notes and try to execute and lived experience. What I'm learning is that I, as a cis gay man, need to learn to make space, because I have to be aware of my privilege. And a lot of my gay friends don't agree with me, but I do think that we are the Brahmins of the spectrum in that sense. Like our privilege is immense. If I'm not wearing nail paint, I can walk on the road and I'll have all the privileges of a cishet man. Whereas a trans person will not have that, an intersex person will not have that. And we have to make space.
Basically, cis queers, please show up. Like this is embarrassing now, and like awful.
Number one thing that I learned from Daniela, going back again to representation, is that, representation is always used as a word which has almost got a tinge of charity in it. And I hate that. And I hate that whole, we're riding the sort of, representation wave for the last 5-6 years. Everywhere, every show has a tertiary queer character who's not really helping the cause, as a victim or a villain or a comic trope. It's not really. But with Daniela, I realized that intersex people have been so invisible that actually Daniela coming into the show opened up a robust world for us. It was not about giving them representation. Who are we to give representation? It was them making our world richer. So that, like that, this shroud of invisibility, everyone's got this veil of invisibility, which was very apparent. Like for me, I learned so much about my own biases making this show. One of the reviews actually said what you said, that and we also come from a sense of apology. I have so many times hidden my identity because I don't want to disrupt the conversation in the room. No, I don't want to take the limelight. Let's talk about. One of the reviews said, यार मैं जब खाना खाने जाता हूँ मैं तो नहीं बोलता कि मैं माउंट चाओ सूप ऑर्डर कर रहा हूँ, by the way I'm straight. Like, how does it matter? Go look for a house as roommates. But it's so important not to hide, because there's so much, the web of lies just continues. Rajat and I have found houses easily, but now we're at an age we can't pretend to be roommates anymore. And when we had to say that we're a couple in Bombay, we had to see 70 houses before we found somebody. So that thing is real, and I loved Anees and Sanam saying that we want to look for a house as an openly queer couple. I was like, ye kaise hoga? Ye to bada interesting adventure hai. Let's shoot this. But look at their gumption and look at what they went through, and they found it. So I think till they don't, why should we live these lives of invisibility? That my my invisibility I'm feeling is the bigger uh, villain right now. As long as we're pandering to these narratives of victim villain comic trope, they'll watch us. But if they want to see our stories of our victory and our triumphs, it kind of glitches their overall matrix, and they don't want to see those characters. A review, actually, I mean, the reviews overall have been very nice, but I remember the ones which were not. I need a therapy session. But those keep, and so one person actually said, surely things are not so nice and happy for the queer community. Why? Why can't we be happy? What is your problem? So, it's that constant thing of 377 chala gaya na. Stand in the corner and enjoy whatever you're getting. Why are you asking for more? Why are you asking for more? Do it in the bedroom. But why should I do it in the bedroom? When the marriage equality thing came, that very day, I got a message from my CA saying that you have defaulted on your GST payment and you have to pay this penalty. I was like, why? Why should I pay this penalty? Why should I be invisible? I don't want to be invisible anymore. And when I want to be visible, you want to see me through the lens that is comfortable for you. It's tiring. So, full props to Anees and Sanam for going out there and saying, we're a lesbian couple and we want houses on our own terms. So, yeah.
Thanks. Sorry, just to go back to also what was transpiring in their story. Was that they were, I forget the organization's name, but basically...
Homonoi.
Thank you.
Homonoi.
So there was a meeting of a bunch of young queers, which is not very different from Good As You, which at least in spirit it didn't feel very different from Good As You, which is a weekly. God, sorry, they all sound like sort of promos now. But Good As You is basically a weekly like sort of meeting that happens every Thursday at the offices of Swabhava. If you don't know, on Google, look it up. Sorry. So yes, I'll try and slow down. So they were sitting in a circle talking about this very journey, and I'm guessing who's a slightly older person in the group, right? Like who's one of the conveners maybe, was saying the same thing. Why must you insist on getting a house as a lesbian couple? Get a house first and then assert that you're a lesbian couple, right? Which for us, I think feels like the most practical thing that we can do. The other thing that was, the thought that was going through my mind constantly was that you are not cis men looking for a house. So do you feel safe while doing this? Is your land owner or like whatever house owner going to be sort of good with you, right? And I think like it also comes from that. So one is visibility, but the other is also safety, which I think Shilok, you've talked about. Sorry, Jaydeep, would you like to go first?
I was just saying they also get the courage from like their parental support that they get. So they did not want, they got the support and they wanted to fight it out. So yeah.
Shilok, you've talked about sort of thinking about safety and relationships earlier, and I wondered if you had any thoughts to share, not just in terms of interpersonal relationships, but also being a sort of a visibly queer person in the wider universe, looking for houses, groceries. Is there any sort of concerns that you've ever had?
I think I will be stepping back with this question because I feel I'm not the right person to answer this. But if anyone in the crowd, please feel free to volunteer. Why it is because I think I do have a privilege where I can easily walk as a cis woman without revealing about my history, and I have passed many times. So in that way, it has been safer. Um, Even with my partner's relatives, there are a lot of people, they don't have no clue about it. And I'm like, okay, it is also not necessary they have to know. But also all my relatives knew, and everyone were in the wedding and it was also peaceful. So it is also good in that way as well. um, but I know where I have to be visible, where I don't have to be. um, and it's just my personal thing. I am not talking to anyone or for others. It's just me as a person, as Shilok. um, I have become very private person these days. And even my partner, we both do not like to post our pictures online, because I have experienced how it can be misused by people. um, and also today with AI scams and stuff and things, it is so scary to be on the internet, not just being a queer person. um, I just don't feel safe. And also, there are certain things over this period. It's been 6 months we've been married, and it's been 1 year we've been together, more than 1 year. So I really like what we have inside the four walls. Even the ugly fights, even the never ending romance. Um, and it is so beautiful, and it is so divine and precious for me. And I just want to keep it with myself. Uh, in case tomorrow, if I have to speak about it, like right now, I am here. I will definitely do talk about it. But I don't want to be out there where I feel I am always continuously thinking, oh my God, what's going to go wrong, and how it is going to be, misused or something. But I am happy where I am. So, yeah.
I was very curious about um, what was the experience like of interacting with the cast's family wherever it was
Yeah.
sort of feasible, possible? What were the
Yeah.
conversations like? What was that experience like? Because I think family keeps
Yeah.
coming up in our conversations
Yeah.
like in a very big
Yeah.
way, and I wondered what
Yeah.
was that experience like while filming.
So I realized in the making of the show, I realized in the making of the show that the parental experience is so key to the queer experience, whether it's acceptance or whether it's support or whether it's the key sort of conflict in your relationship, and they figure in everything from Lush Monsoon to Trinetra to Daniela. Everyone, Soham and Suresh's main conflict is the parental figure. So and all different nuances of it, and the thing is, with I don't know what magic really happened. As queer people, we're always, like what I was saying earlier, that we're always told to be invisible and be silent and keep it to yourself. Kya fayda hai? A very close member of my family called up my bhabhi and said, Ki kya, we are not that kind of family. Why has he made this show? He's bringing disgust to the family. And I found this out at like last week when so this is, can you imagine? And it shattered me. It broke me down. So we are so used to being silenced and told to stay silent when three cameras were there and there was a room of people. We did a lot of workshops and we thought through the whole process before the cameras were brought into the picture. But then when you see people who want to hear your story after the world has constantly told you to shut up, somebody says, okay, tell us what it is. The characters want to talk. It became therapy for all of us. It became therapy for the parents. The truth you see in the scenes is because they are feeling things. Daniela's father, I don't want to give away the end because it is the twist, but what Daniela's father says, it is his entire lives. Nobody has asked him this. What did you feel when you did what you did? So I think we became a sense of a medium to have those conversations which the parents hadn't had with their children, the children hadn't had with their parents. So those conversations happened because yeah, we were told to be silent. And I think that's where I think the truth of the craft came out of us occupying a space which was never filled before. So everyone wanted to speak, everyone wanted to talk. Yeah.
Haha, we are concluding. We are concluding. Okay, so well, I think. All right, I think I know what I want to say. what I'm trying to say is that I think what I really liked about like the best part of the show was the fact that people were figuring themselves out. People were figuring out relationships with their families, with their friends, with their lovers, with the world around them. And I think that's how we want queer representation to be more and more, right? It's not a Seema anti-homo version, right? Like I mean, that would be fun. I mean, let's be honest, but it's not just that, right? Like we don't want just that. The hitting on the head with a hammer of marriage as a worthwhile sort of driver tool for visibility, I'd rather be invisible if that's the case, right? Like I don't want that to be the manner in which somebody decides how my life, my story, my community story should be told. So, and I think like that's what I meant by saying it's a great option to have, but like, that can't be the framework through which we are all pushed through, right?
I used to feel like, oh my god, why should I go through this? I don't want to, like, to get married, and like this is too heteronormative. And so, and also it was very annoying when the day before the wedding, even the on the day of the wedding, all my aunts, my mother, everyone kept saying, you're a woman, you shouldn't be angry, be patient. It's like, you need to tolerate. And this is again completely new world, because the until then I've been fighting to be one, and now I am one. And like, this is like, a whole, I don't know, I mean, like, I want, but I don't want this. And I was more angrier every day. And I'm like, I used to scream. I had a huge fight with my father as well, a week before the wedding. I couldn't control I was so frustrated. I don't know how to deal with this. It is a different experience. Um, but right now, if I think about all of those things, it has helped me in many ways. I have learned a lot from my mother and also from my mother-in-law, and other women in my family. Because I remember one of my cousin, she used to tell me, "Oh, you're so lucky. You are like, you get to go to party, and like you're having fun, and you're traveling, and so and so." And like, I think her nazar only was for this. Is this all this happened? But then, like, and around that point of time, I was like, oh, you're also like, I want what you have. But when I had what she was having, I had no clue. I'm still figuring out a lot of things. But whatever happened so far, it is so perfect, and it has taught me so many things. Before, I used to scream for everything. There was so much anger. Right now, I pick my battles. I know how to utilize my anger into creativity, or everything that has happened. I think it is just a flow, and I want that to happen. I don't want to change anything, or influence anything to happen in the future as well. I just want to flow. Yeah.
I think I got very lucky. I don't know if I could have actually calculated when to come out. Maybe I was not ready to come out in my 20s. And I came out, in my 30s, and I got very lucky. I didn't expect the love that came my way to come my way. I never thought that my Barjatia dreams would actually come true in Jamshedpur. No, touch wood. I don't think so. And my parents also finally accepted my partner before. The last photograph I have of my mother is my mother sitting next to Rajat. And with her hand on his shoulder, and it's so and my father, the last thing he told Rajat was, "Don't call me uncle, call me Baba." So touch wood, I got really lucky with that. So what I am slowly discovering is that what was my shame has now become my superpower. So earlier, if I worked in the corporate world a lot, and because of advertising, and or like you go into these cishet rooms, and anyone senses your queerness, you feel it. You feel it. The air becomes different, and you go back into a shell. But over time and over the making of this show, I have met queer people who are so proud of what they own. I've started wearing nail paint, and now when I go into a meeting and I see someone giving me a little bit of a look of like, oh, nail polish, admi, what's going on, I flaunt it more in their face, and then I see them diminish. And it's such a power. So that has been my, like, that's my new high these days. Every time I see someone homophobic, I confront them with my queerness. And it's just, that's been my relationships with my image of what I was ashamed of and what I love and celebrate about myself right now.
Thank you. Um, where I am today, I think it has took a lot of inner work, um, and I learned it very long back, and I'm thankful for that. As I already mentioned, this journey with so many things that happened, but I had to love myself. So I always told this to everyone and also to myself to be a mother, and not as a gender but as an emotion. Imagine yourself, you have any problem or any insecurities or any trauma, and you have a child, and if the child comes and talks about the same trauma or same insecurities, how would you taken care of your child? And to be a mother for yourself is a very important journey here. So because when you treat yourself as your own child, you become so unconditional, and you know how to take care of yourself. And also when that happens, there is this whole a magic that is happening around, because you're also attracting a right thing in your life. You're also showing other people, this is how I love myself, and you're putting a standard out there. You need to love me the way I love myself. So, and that is a standard that we always have to put out there, and the only way is you have to show it by loving yourself. So
I think it's very important to have a community who will be there for you to learn from, who will be there to love you in ways that you didn't think was possible. A community that you want to invest in, and also a community that also teaches you. There's also some degree of tough love. Like, I'm a great proponent of that, and some of them are obviously here, um, I'm terribly thankful for all of them being very loving, but also saying, God, you're a mess, you're a nightmare. Let's work on that, right? So, and I think it's extremely important to be able to do that.